Listen, see, I don't know what you might be in need of today, but I want you to understand right now, God is calling you to learn how to forgive. See, God says in his word, you must pray for those who persecute against you. And what that tells you is you have to do things according to God's timing and to God's understanding. Because when you do things in God's timing and with his understanding, you're not at a disadvantage. See, for many years, people, places, things, and memories may have had an effect on you. But what right now God wants you to do, he wants to use that storm. He wants to use that struggle. He wants to use those things, those insecurities, those bad judgment, those trauma bonds. He wants to use everything that's going on in your life right now so that he could show you who you is. See, it's easy to allow yourself to think that God has left you. It's easy to believe that God is not a man to come in your situation. But what the enemy wants you to think is not what God wants you to believe. See, God knows that his children has to go through a form of storm in order to understand how powerful he is. Because that testimony that God is preparing with you right now in your current situation, that testimony will stand the test of time. It will prove that God has been with you this whole entire time. See, what you got to understand, sometimes we as people tend to let our bad judgment affect the way in which God wants to see us. I'm going to repeat that again. Sometimes as people, we allow our bad judgment to be a direct reflection of the things in which God says he does not want us to think that we are, because bad company corrupts good character. When you're a person who are around the wrong people, you tend to go through a form of hell in which God needs you to go through in order to make you greater, because that form of hell is what's going to make you tired of repeating the same cycles, tired of feeling that same way, tired of doubting yourself, because God needs you to know that you must be delivered from that noisome pestilence. And God needs you to know that he will deliver you from those pits. He will deliver you from that struggle. He will deliver you from that pain when you come to him, because God needs you to know that bad company corrupts good character. God needs you to know that you must see yourself in the way that he sees you. And that's why he has to allow you to go around people, places, and things who have mistreated you. People, places, and things who have talked down to you. People, places, and things that may not have been what you may needed. But God needs you to know that that storm is what's going to position you. God needs you to know that that betrayal is what's going to make you come to him. That thought in your mind of suicide is what's going to allow you to be free. Because what God needs you to know, for every form of shortcoming, for every form of defeat, for every form of a flaw, for every form of suspicion, it's needed to create a form of curiosity to connect back with him. I need somebody to know that those thoughts that you've been thinking, the way that you've been feeling, the way that you've been talking, it's not by mistake. Because God needs you to know that when you're in the process of being renewed, when you're in the process of being restructured, when you're in the process of going to new places and a new mindset, he first has to bring back those painful memories. He first has to make you recognize that trauma. He first has to make you recognize that unforgiveness in yourself. He first has to let you recognize the people that he has, that you have around you. He first has to expose everything, because the enemy exposes himself, but God reveals. I'm gonna repeat that for you again. The enemy exposes himself, but God reveals. God needs you to be mindful of the things that's happening around you, the things that you're thinking, the things that you're believing, because before God can give you that place, before God can give you that thing that you're in search of, for that closure that you're in search of, for that love that you want, he first has to allow you to realize what you need him for. And see, by being around the wrong people, it will force you to look at yourself in a different light, because it's going to come a time with that person who you thought was your best friend, that boyfriend that you thought was going to be with you for a lifetime. It's going to come a time with those people who have the same type of bad judgment and the same type of character as you. It's going to make a mistake because they're human, and which is going to make you see yourself differently. Why? Because the effect that they have on you. Because when we as people tend to be cast away, when we as people tend to be pushed off on, when we as people tend to be belittled, it starts a mindset of us not wanting to take that anymore. And see, what God needs you to know, when you're in that season in which you're being belittled, when you're in that season in which you're being teared down, when you're in that season when you realize that your friends are not your friends, when you're at that season when your job is not paying you your worth and is misusing you and talking down on you, what you got to understand, in that season, that you're currently in, those things have to happen in order for God to take you into your season of isolation. See, your season of isolation is the thing that God uses to uplift you, to encourage you, to remove you from people, places, and things in which no longer serve you. You have to enter a season of isolation in order to be grown. You must enter a season of joy in order to have peace, because peace is attached to calmness, peace is attached to favor, and peace is attached to the calling that God has for you. Because God knocks on every door, but it's up to you as a person whether or not you want God to come in, because God needs you to know there's greater for you.